Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Hobson of the Punch Drunk Critics, and on this week's show, we're going to be talking about two movies, just two, and it's going to be The 355 and A Hero by one of my favorite filmmakers, Asghar Farhadi. And joining me, as you can see on the other side, is Roxana Hadadi, who you're Vulture now, right? Vulture
Yes.
TV critic, and I'm proud to say a former member of the Punch Drunk Critics. I'm very proud of everything she's accomplished in the years since. You've done extremely well for yourself, and I'm happy for you. So,
Thank you. That's very kind. And yeah,
absolutely.
proud alum, PDC.
You've done some great stuff, and you're one of the few people I actually read. So there you go.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so let's start off talking about The 355. This is a movie that, and I need to stop doing this because every time I get excited for a movie, it turns out to be crap. Like it never,
Don't do it. It's the curse.
I know it sucks. Like
Yeah.
9 or whatever, all this sort of stuff. Triple Frontier, anything with triple in it. Triple Frontier.
Okay. Triple Frontier was like a million times better than this movie.
Yeah.
Triple Frontier is like a good movie, I think, let down by a bad ending. This is just an overall mediocre.
Triple Frontier isn't even a bad movie. It is fun. It's just when you look at from where it began to where it ended, you can't help but be a little disappointed at like the potential that was wasted there. The 355 is sort of like that too, because I'm like, you got Jessica Chastain, you've got Fan Bingbing, you've got Lupita Nyong'o, you got Diane Kruger, you got Penelope Cruz, you got Sebastian Stan, you got Edgar Ramirez. Up and down, this thing is great, and then you've got Simon Kinberg,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, okay. And I imagine that this was something that him and Jessica Chastain were like, let's do this while they were making Dark Phoenix, which is, I think, not the worst X-Men movie, but it's still pretty bad. And
I don't even remember anything about it, and I think I've seen it twice. It just like my brain rejects absorbing it.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
I think it just manages to eke out being better than X-Men Apocalypse, which is just atrocious.
Yeah, Apocalypse is really bad too. And that's another one where you're just sort of like, how did you assemble this cast?
Yeah.
And then deliver whatever this movie is.
And that's where I'm going with this. Like, where do you come? How do you make this movie and then make it so bland, so generic, and then have this great assemblage of women, a lot of them doing action movies like they've never done before, and you don't give them any personality. How can you have a movie how can you have a girl power movie when the girls aren't interesting? I mean, you can't. I don't know. This movie, which is basically about a bunch of international agents come together to stop a weapon that is loose. It's a very basic plot.
It's so generic. It's just so generic. And I think that it's also one of those things that is sort of plagued. You said girl power, and I construe that in the worst way, because it is really it's really plagued by these sort of like, can you believe that women can do this job sort of thinking? And it does not feel like 2022. It really feels like a 2000s early sort of commentary on women can also be badasses. And Jessica Chastain like loves these roles, and they are not doing her any favors, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. I mean, this movie has a lot of scenes where it's like the women upstaging the men over and over again, and I'm like,
right,
yeah, okay, I get it.
Well, but also I think that, and I sort of tweeted something about this, and I think it deserves more than just my like 280 glib characters, but so many of these movies, this Gunpowder Milkshake, Kate, The Protege, like all of these
that I love.
Well, see, I feel like all of them sort of fall into this same, they are women and their male proteges either like let them down or lied them or betrayed to them or something. And so there continues to be this like woman only gets activated by the betrayal of a man. And it just feels very simplistic and just super boring.
Territory. It's Luc Besson was making these movies 20 years ago, and honestly, the genre hasn't really progressed past it.
Yeah.
But I still have a fondness for those movies, and I always will. So it doesn't. So you give me the Protege right now, I probably liked it more than most people did. You give me Gunpowder Milkshake, I probably liked it more than most people did.
At least, and I will say, at least those movies had style. You know, like Maggie Q, this is what she does. Like the Protege survives.
I sat in a room with her.
And you survived?
Barely.
Yeah.
I was within arm's reach of her, man. And I was like, I might get out of here.
I might, or I might not. But yeah, I mean, she is someone who can carry an action film. Like Mary Elizabeth Winstead has really become that kind of person. But this movie felt so let down also by the action scenes, which did not really come together in an exciting way. Yeah. There's this huge set piece in Morocco, because these movies always have a set piece in Morocco. And there's just nothing that I can really point to as even being redeeming enough to like watch on TNT in a few years.
It's not like fun bad. It's just kind of
bad. It's just bland.
Yes, it's boring. And at this point, because I think that one of the things that befell Dark Phoenix said, it was very, very bland also. And I'm starting to just think, Simon Kinberg, maybe he should just stick to producing stuff.
Yeah.
Occasionally writing something. But I behind the camera, he's done nothing to excite me. And the 355 is a movie that deserves to be better. I don't even blame the actors in it. I think for the most part, they're fine. They just don't have anything to do. And I even felt bad for the guys. I mean, Sebastian Stan, he basically had a cup of coffee in the movie. I mean, why was he even there?
Edgar Ramirez. I mean, I feel like he is let down more because there's a suggestion that he's going to be, like the guy that is evading them with this MacGuffin of a terrorist attack thing.
Chastain calling up all her friends, and it was like in my review, I equated it to one of those Adam Sandler vacation comedies where he just dials up his friends and they go on vacation to Hawaii and somebody shoots it and they call it a movie.
Maybe
that's kind of what this felt like.
Maybe, but I mean, was this filmed and held? Like, when was this movie made?
I seem to recall this having a very long post-production.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. It seems like we've been waiting for this movie forever.
Yeah, it just feels very lost in time.
There was that whole controversy with Fan Bingbing too, like whether she was going to be.
Oh, yes.
Because there was something going on in China. She had done something, and she put somebody off in the government, I think.
Yes. I think. But again, and her presence is like, she doesn't need to be in this movie. No. It was very generic for all of these women to be in it. The only thing that I would say that I thought was very funny is I always love these rich villain auctions. They really have become a recurring thing in this kind of movie, and I love them. Jurassic World is a terrible film, but the dinosaur auction is one of the best things that's ever happened because it's so.
And they
stupid.
had one of those in Hawkeye too,
yeah,
underground auctions for rich people. They just gather and they bid on.
I love it.
It was like come on.
Do you know how much, if I were rich, I would not attend any of these functions? Oh. I would purely bid anonymously. Yeah. No one needs to see my face.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
No. But when you talk about TV and movies, the villains are the heels, and the rich people are always flashy, so they need to be seen, each other, holding up their little thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all the villains in the 355 are presumably Muslim. There's a Chechen warlord.
Yes.
They're in Morocco, Yeah. Lupita's Khadija has to correct this man on his interpretation of the Quran. I just was very tired by all of it. But, I also, and maybe I fell asleep, but spoiler alert, how does Sebastian Stan just come back to work for the CIA? Do they explain that in the movie?
I don't think they did it very well.
Okay.
I don't think it's explained very well because I can't tell you exactly.
Okay, because that ending did not feel like the original ending.
Yeah, it probably wasn't, honestly. I mean, who knows how many things this went through. This was written by the lady who did Catwoman, right? She co-wrote
the old Catwoman?
Teresa Rebeck. Yeah,
oh, that's
Catwoman remake. Halle Catwoman.
See, that's why it feels lost in time. That's why.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the reason. The Kinberg just I don't know. It's a shame. I like him because he was such a contributor to the X-Men movies, which are, my favorites. But it's just, he, since striking out on his own a little bit, he has not impressed me at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I always sometimes think like maybe your talent is in adapting somebody else's thing. Mm-hmm. Like maybe your thing isn't the original thing. And sometimes I think that like Hollywood people sort of forget that.
I feel like him and Chastain are developing something else too. Like I feel like I've heard that somewhere. So
okay, well, good luck to them, because this was not good proof.
55. Let's talk about a hero.
Yeah.
Who directed this again? Who's some guy?
Some guy. Who knows?
Did you get to talk to him, by the way? Did you get to talk to Asghar Farhadi?
I'm talking to him tomorrow. I am very excited, very nervous.
Now, where does he rank on your scale? Is he above or below Irfan Khan?
That's a very good question. I think they are probably pretty similar, because I'm sorry?
Did you ever get a chance to interview Irfan before he died?
No, I just had like your very thoughtful phone call from him. So no, I never got to interview him. I think that what's interesting is that like both of them have very much served as ambassadors for their respective countries and cultures. And I think with a hero, it's so interesting because it is, I was a little surprised to see people claiming that it like did not show the Iranian prison system in a bad light. Like I saw some early tweets that were like, he's really nice to the prison administrators. And I was like, did we watch the same movie? Because I feel like this movie is very, like all Farhadi movies, is like very controlled in its criticisms, but the criticisms are there. So it was sort of weird.
I mean, they were totally using him. I mean, the whole thing. For people who may not have known what the movie is about, A Hero is about a guy released on prison for a couple days. Right?
Yeah, which is sort of customary-ish in Iran. I think it's like you get a couple days of leave every so often based on like sort of like petitions, like from your representatives or whatever. But he is in essentially like debtor's prison, or in a prison for a debt among other people. But like he hasn't really quote unquote committed a like violent crime so much as he is in a debt that he is unable to pay.
You really get the sense that being a debtor in this culture is like super humiliating. Like really, like not like here. I mean, like everybody has debt here, but there it's like owing a debt is like humiliation, embarrassment, and it really reflects on you and the way people perceive you.
It's sort of, but it also sort of reminded me like why Squid Game was such a huge hit this year, which was also about people with like overwhelming amounts of debt who society has like ostracized. I think it's like, it is an extreme, well, this might be, I don't want to be overgeneralizing, but I think in like certain Asian cultures, East Asian and West Asian, there's sort of this sense of like, if you cannot pay what you owe, then that is a moral reflection. So yes, he is very much judged for being unable to pay this debt. His lender thinks that he should go to prison, so he does, and he's been in there for 3 years, basically.
So he gets out for a couple of days. He finds this handbag with gold in it. He initially tries to sell it, decides against it when it's not enough, and then makes the decision to return it. It is returned to a woman who claims it. Then some questions kind of rise about her and whether or not she is actually the person who owns the bag.
Right.
Some doubts emerge. He becomes sort of a local celeb for doing this really great deed. But when doubts start to emerge about why he did it, things kind of spiral out of control as he tries to maintain this public image of himself. What I really liked about this movie, look, I think we can both agree, Asghar Farhadi, I think, is like one of the best moral dramatists in the world. Like he's just, all his movies are complex. They deal with issues that sometimes I've never even considered or thought about, and this one to me is no different. I saw this at Middleburg and I loved it, and I saw it again and I loved it. And, it was interesting because it could have just been about whether or not this guy's good deed would go unpunished or so, or something like that. But it's not just about that, though. What was interesting to me was how, all the things he does to try to fix it, make it worse, but it's mainly about the people and how they look at him and judge him, that makes this thing that he did that is basically a good thing, they make it bad. Like, they make it worse by the way these people keep perceiving him and judging him. And that was the thing that I found interesting. Like, I was like, huh, like he's trying to do the right thing, but people are just killing it and killing it and killing it. And now I'm judging him too.
I think that's fair. I think that, like, what Farhadi does really well in all of his films is sort of walk that line between, like, who you are in public and who you are in private. And that has a lot of weight in Iranian culture, just because it is what the regime is, what the government is. And so I think, in sort of a very cynical way, there is like a certain level of like societal distrust in terms of like, what are you getting out of this? Right. And to be fair, he was going to get something out of it, right? Like, he doesn't find the bag, his girlfriend finds the bag. She pitches the idea to him as a way to free him of debt. And like, whenever presented with a choice, Raheem seems to make the worst choice possible. And I think it's just one of those things where, like you said, he sort of digs himself into this hole, but there are all of these details and complexities about, like, as always with Farhadi, like, what social pressures led Raheem to make this choice, and how other people react to him tell us about this character. Right, like, and I think that, like,
he's kind of going around, sneaking around with, sort of, and his son who has this need for him. He's got social issues, his stutter, all these little things that are factors for him. But even those things come into play about how people judge him.
Yeah. Like, if you were a better father, then your son wouldn't have a stutter. If you were a better brother, then your sister and her husband wouldn't have to, like, make excuses for you. It's very much, and, all societies are judgmental. Iranian culture is judgmental in like different ways from American culture. But I think, people can see in this film this sense of, like, if you as a person are an accumulation of your good or bad deeds, what about a deed that could be both good and bad? Like, is it more good because he returns the gold to the woman who says that it's hers? Or is it more bad because his initial aim was to do this for himself and to better himself at the cost of someone else? So I think that there's a lot of internal stuff happening. And then there's also this sort of commentary on, like, the Iranian prison system, and how do Iranians as individuals get sort of tasked with representing the government or the regime in like a positive way, sometimes against their will. So I think that there is a lot happening here. I've read some criticisms where people think that we sort of called it a morality play. They think it's like less finessed than a separation. And I think it does have less finesse, but purposefully so. Like, I do think that Farhadi is trying to say something here about, like, sort of the intractability of Iranian identity, and like the sort of corners that you get backed into because of oppressive systems, that I'm not sure all of his other films have that. I just don't think that it's as blatant as this film is. And I think that's on purpose.
I think it's on purpose too, but this is also a different type of movie too, with a different type of lead character. Like, Raheem to me could almost be like, I could see him as a con man in another life. Like, like, he has this smile that in the beginning you're like, yeah, it seems genuine. And then kind of later on, you're kind of like, this smile doesn't seem so genuine anymore. It kind of seems a little sketchy.
And he could be a con man now, right? I mean, there are definitive people in his life who think that he is a con man now. Yeah. And I think your point about the smile is great, because I think all of the performances in this film, again, as always with Farhadi films, are like next level amazing. Like, Amir Jadidi does such a good job with that smile, with Raheem's like body language. I love that he's always hovering like outside of spaces.
Yeah.
Like he almost doesn't like trust his own body. And then Asghar Farhadi's daughter, Serena, plays Nazanin, who is the daughter of his lender, who, spoiler alert, makes a decision based in social media that sort of changes Raheem's life.
Yeah.
And she, the last time she acted was in a separation as the daughter in that film. So I love that they also have this sort of working relationship where when he's like, hey, I need a daughter to make a crazy moral choice, she's like, oh, cool, I'm right here. So yeah, I really love this one. It probably was my favorite foreign film of the year, foreign language film of the year.
Where does it rank for you in terms of Farhadi films, though? Like, what probably is the Separation top of your list?
Yeah, I think A Separation is top of my list. I've been trying to rewatch them all. About Ellie is also really high up there because I just love the sort of like strange mystery that is woven throughout that film. And I recently rewatched The Salesman, which I both like and also probably makes me the most like sick to my stomach because the final third act of that film goes to such a like revenge place that isn't really violent but is deeply upsetting. So I would say this is probably above The Salesman and below A Separation and About Ellie, but it's not like you have like a bad Farhadi film, right? And the past is so good. I don't know, Travis. I can't answer. I don't know. What about for you?
Separation is definitely my top.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Past is my second favorite.
It's so good and so underrated. Like nobody talks about it.
Yeah, I think The Past is for me. You and I talked about that years ago. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is probably third for me. I
Okay.
really like this one. I think because it's a little bit more gritty because of the character, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I like that sort of con man aspect to it. That's sort of
Mm-hmm.
to me. So I think that's probably why this one ranks so high for me. But yeah, I'm glad you liked that. I figured you would. You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad that I want people to go and check this movie out because, like I said, I saw it months ago, and it was the one movie I didn't review at Middleburg because it was the one I wanted to think about the most. So
Mm-hmm.
around to it, so that's why I wanted to watch it again, and I'm glad I got to do that. So, well, Rocky, this has been fantastic as always when we get a chance to chat. Tell people a little bit about what you got coming up, what you've been doing, any projects you got coming up, and where they can find you on social media.
Sure. So I am now a part of Vulture's TV criticism team. So you can find my stuff at Vulture. I've been writing about Yellow Jackets,
Did you
which
get that
is
jacket? Did you buy it?
no, but it's in the cart. So I'm writing about Yellow Jackets, which the season finale of that is next week. It's very fun and gross. You should catch up on that. And I also reviewed the second season of Righteous Gemstones, which is a show I love very much. We're talking about con men. And that premieres tonight. If you're listening to this, it is Sunday, January 9th. So you can find my stuff at Vulture. You can find me at Twitter at Roxana_Hadadi.
Right. Thanks a lot, Rocky. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it. We have to do it again.
Thanks, man.
Got to come back soon.
Yes.
Talk about some TV because I don't get to watch that much TV that doesn't have wrestlers in it. Although I have been watching Succession.
Second season of Righteous Gemstones has wrestlers in it. Ooh. So yeah.
Danny McBride gets suplexed because if he does, then I'll watch it.
There's like a whole backstory about like the Memphis wrestling scene, which I guess is like its own thing, which I didn't know about, but it has like sort of an interesting through line throughout the season.
Okay, yeah, I'm watching Succession now. That's my thing.
Can't go wrong.
I'm on season 2, so I'm still got a ways to go.
Nice.
But this has been great. Thanks again, Rocky, for joining me. This has been Cinema Royale. I'm Travis Hobson. You can find me every day at punchdrunkcritics.com, on social media at Punchy Critic, and you can find Punch Drunk Critics at PDC Movies. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.